McDevitt, and I'm really happy to be here with this group. I love this group. My first academic professional librarian job was at Huntington, West Virginia, and my first article, professional journal article, was in West Virginia libraries. So I'm glad to be with this group. Anyway, so I'm also delighted to be joined in this presentation with my colleagues, Veronica Paz, an accounting professor from IUP, and Lea Perry, a political science professor. Now we may seem to be, I guess I would say we're a diverse work group, which are the best, and in my opinion, and but we have things in common. One thing that we have in common is we are all concerned about student success, and we all feel that privacy literacy is important, and we feel that privacy literacy is a way to link our disciplines to real world concerns that students have and that motivate them. And the last thing we have in common is we all love libraries and the centrality of the library to the scholarly conversation. So we love working together, and we're always looking for ways that we can help each other reach the students and help them be more successful and spend time together. So that's why they're here today at this library conference. Okay, so what are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about privacy literacy. So why do we need privacy literacy training for college students? How does it relate to their success and career prospects? We're going to discuss the interests of library and college professors in different disciplines in developing educational opportunities related to privacy literacy, and describe the design and outcomes of collaborative educational activities that took place at IUP designed to directly or indirectly increase student awareness of online sharing practices. And at the end, we're hoping to spend some time brainstorming innovative ways to raise privacy consciousness on our campuses, all of our campuses. So we're going to start with a quick poll.
All right.
So according to a recent story in PRR Newswire, oh, it's right there, just read it and answer it. Oh no. Go ahead, answer that. What do you think? Okay, do we have everybody there? Looks like pretty much. Veronica, look at those numbers. Do we have everybody? You can just tell by looking at them.
Yeah, we're at 80%. So if people can make their final decision, that would be smashing. Yeah.
Okay, all right. So we're going to end the polling. And can they see the answers?
We can end the poll, and I think that I started sharing the results. Can everybody see the results, hopefully?
So they did say 79%, which could possibly be related to my epic failure of showing you the next screen, which has the poll results on it. It is 79%, yes, but a lot of people thought, frankly, I question whether it's 79%. I would think it would be more like 99%. According to this article, and it was from April 2020, so it's pretty recent, nearly all businesses, 98%, do background research on job candidates. And 80% say a personal website is important. So online personas for students who are going through college now are a must. But that doesn't mean that they don't have to be careful about what those online personas represent. So we all know the classic story of the pirate Pierogi, who was working at a racing through a pirate game, and heard about a decision made by the pirate administration, and took to social media to criticize the contract extensions by the general manager on Facebook. Well, he heard from his boss before the game was over, and he lost his job soon after that. So while he might have been an advocate for freedom of speech, I guess Aleea would be the one to answer this, but would you like to weigh in on whether or not, is that freedom of speech or?
It has nothing to do with freedom of speech.
Okay.
He's working for a private organization, and private organizations don't have to give you freedom of speech. That's simply between you and your government.
See, that isn't it great to have a political science professor with you? Okay, all right. So making unpleasant comment about your employers is one thing that could make someone's online persona less attractive to future employers. As you can see by this infographic, it has pretty much the same suggestions that the persona is important. Students recognize, according to this study, and I think is probably true just from talking with them, that they recognize that you shouldn't be posting things about, especially older students, the ones over the age of 21 that are allowed to drink, realize that they're not supposed to be posting things about alcohol and their sex, profanity. But they don't realize that that spelling and grammar is also important, and employers care about that. So there's an area that they might need a little more information on. Okay, all right. Now they may say that, I don't post pictures of myself with alcohol, but that doesn't mean that the other people at the party don't post your pictures. And it doesn't mean that you don't post something privately and then they post it on their sites, which are not locked down. So you have to be really careful to control your images. Okay, this study was of students in Silicon Valley, where you would think they would be pretty savvy. And the majority of them did feel that they were being observed whenever they shared information online. But that didn't mean that they used even really basic ways to protect their privacy, like using unique passwords on different systems. And some of them didn't even know what two-factor authentication was. Now, our partners in IT security bemoan the number of students who fall for these phishing messages about billing problems, contest winners, expiration dates, offers to pay you a lot of money for pet sitting, which that's a big one with students, and most recently, COVID-19 scams, putting themselves and the general security of the system at risk. So one of the ways that IT tries to inform students of that problems are this email that we got sometime, I think last week, from Amanda, our IT security person who's one of our partners. And it's about the phishing attacks increasing 667% in the month of March alone. And then it gives you some examples of what kinds of things you should avoid. And especially the good, well-paid work from home is something that students are particularly likely to fall for. So now this one, just in the chat, could people tell us, do you think students are going to read emails like this? So if people could answer that in the chat. And I can't see, can somebody see the chat? Okay, if you guys could.
I can, yeah. So, so far we have not always, probably not, no.
Okay, all right. So
depends on how many other emails we've sent to them. And I had a student not respond to an actual job offer from me because they assumed it was another scam. Thank you for that.
Well, okay, yeah, so that's interesting because we got responses that people were saying that their students might not respond to phishing messages, but they so they were reading the message. They were just thinking it was phishing, so they were aware of phishing. I think it's true that they are aware of phishing. It's just that people are too too busy with other things and anxious and whatever, so they do. Anyway, okay, all right. So how do we get in touch with them? This is an important thing. So we can make a difference, and one of the ways that we can do that, according to this study, is that just having the conversation with students is what was going to help us develop effective approaches to teach them about data privacy. They said they learned the most whenever they actually made a mistake and had direct experience with some kind of problems. But they also said that themed special events and classroom teachings were also effective. So yay, because that's what we're going to talk about today. And there was a study done by some Penn State librarians about librarians and privacy literacy. And they asked librarians if they tried to teach about privacy literacy. And one of the reasons that librarians said that they didn't do it was because they didn't feel like they were experts in cybersecurity. So I want to continue to make the point in this presentation that you don't have to be an expert. You just want to start a conversation. And don't feel that you have to do it yourself, because no one can do everything, but we all can do something, and you'll see how together we work to do this. So, all right, so this is the team. Teresa McDevitt, the government documents librarian, Veronica Paz, the accounting professor, and Lea Perry, there she is, reading a piece of the Constitution on Constitution Day. So we're gonna go through the panel and talk a little bit about why we care about who we are and why we care about it. Well, I already told you who I am. I'm a librarian at Indiana University of Pennsylvania, and I'm a government documents librarian and an outreach librarian. So I'm always looking for ways that I can work with people across campus to do things that are related to information literacy in the library and raise people's consciousness about information literacy, and in this case, privacy literacy. So what is privacy literacy? Privacy literacy is one's level of understanding and awareness of how information is tracked and used in online environments, and how that information can retain or lose its private nature. And then the consequences that can result when that privacy is lost. Well, how does that relate to libraries? Libraries have a long-standing dedication to protecting our user privacy. In the past, whenever we had paper collections, this was done by never sharing user borrow records, never telling anyone outside the library what a person would ask for at the reference desk. And this was all kind of codified in the Library Bill of Rights. Well, things have changed, and now people are using information. Well, right now, for the last couple of months, they haven't had any paper things unless they got them out before we closed down. But libraries still have a role to play, even if we're only dealing with electronic resources. One thing is we continue to be private in terms of the data that we collect. But we can move towards offering educational opportunities, programming, and outreach to assist users in improving their privacy literacy so they can protect their own literacy. And the ways that that's done is the Data Literacy Project is a big IMLS grant that librarians around New York City got to train the people on the front lines who were working with people who were searching, so that at the point of need, they could encourage people to create unique and strong passwords. Choose Privacy Week is something, now Choose Privacy Every Day is a ALA sponsored outreach thing that includes a lot of information about how libraries and privacy are related. And then again, these librarians at Penn State have this digital shred, which is a whole workshop on how you can deal with privacy literacy in first-year students. In 2019, there was even an amendment to the ALA Bill of Rights that recognizes the universal right to privacy. So really hitting home that the right to privacy is important and librarians should be protecting it. Okay, so what are some strategies for libraries to deliver privacy literacy? Well, one thing is that you can have tips and handouts around. You can even post them on patron use computers that say, be careful of your password, or are you logged out, and those kind of things. You can train librarians to encourage users to be safe and during reference transactions at the point of need, like they do at the Data Privacy Project. And you can include privacy literacy and information literacy training by connecting the information to the information has value frame, the filter bubble discussions. If you want to look at some examples of that, look at the digital shred workshop that encourages the development of critical thinking skills related. And these links are all in this presentation at the end. Okay, so how have we gotten the conversation started on our campus? Well, some of the strategies that we've used is to work with campus-wide national cybersecurity awareness efforts that occur every October. We collaborate on Gen Cyber High School summer camps, which that attempt to train the next generation of cybersecurity experts. In my one credit library class, I include a section on data privacy. And we also seek partnership with university faculty, information technology, Center for Teaching Excellence, and student affairs professionals for educational outreach, including the events described today. So, Veronica, would you like to tell them who you are and why you're interested in this?
Absolutely. Hello, everyone. I am Veronica Paz, and I teach accounting. I teach more forensic accounting and like the higher level accounting, like accounting information systems and auditing. And so my accounting bits are kind of not very very calculational, but they're more text heavy. And so what I do in my courses, and how Aleea and I and Teresa have partnered, is I do teach a bit of cybersecurity. I've developed cyber forensic accounting courses and kind of show the students the importance of their privacy, and also show the students like how they should not put everything on social media. And I am friends with a lot of the students, and they're teaching me Snapchat and Instagram and all these other supposedly cool social media. So I'm not part of just Facebook and the old social media, as they put it. But, and so I try to teach them how to kind of keep their information safe, and also how to keep on top of things, and definitely, hopefully, reply to job offers when they get them, and what the employers are looking for. And so I incorporate certain units within my courses to hopefully share that with them, because I have seen that students don't get positions because of their social media. And then some students get angered by that, because that's my personal life. And I said, I understand that, but they're hiring you to do a job, and it's a brand and it's an image that the company has. And so I kind of incorporate all of that into my courses. And then Teresa and Aleea have been instrumental in helping me do that. And so pretty much that's why I'm very interested in these privacy. And I want our students to be safe and have their computers and the data be safe. And I try to teach them that, because I'm also big with data analytics. And so kind of help them get those positions and keep
them. Okay. Aleea.
Hi there, everyone. So my name is Lea Perry, and I teach political science at IUP. My research interests are public administration, public management, public finance. But one of the other courses I teach now is a course on the fundamentals of Homeland Security. But in my American government class, one of the things that I was always fascinated about when my students would discuss the Constitution was they assume it gives them a great deal of privacy. And assume is the definite operative word there. And so I was brainstorming one day with my friend Teresa about things that maybe could be done in the library, because I, like others, love the library and wanted to see some kind of public event there. And this idea of a poster session for students to look into privacy and the Constitution, and also how it relates to cybersecurity, because it was during Cybersecurity Awareness Month. And so I had my students do that. And what I'm doing here is kind of showing you some of the posters that came up. And Teresa, will you flip the slide for me, please?
Sure.
Thank you, ma'am. So this is me with one of the students and their posters in the library. Basically what happens is I split my class into groups of 3 to 4 students. They do an individual poster. They stand around on these wonderful easels that the library provides right outside of our coffee shop. What happens is the students prepare the poster in advance. They come to the session with it fully ready, and then they get to present to each other, to me, to the library staff, to the IT professionals that come, their friends and other patrons in the library, including folks from the public, as well as other faculty from around campus and interested folks. And the best thing about this session, in my humble assessment, is every time we do this, and Teresa will back me up because we talk about it a lot, a student will say, I didn't know how much information I was giving away. I didn't know how much I don't have control of my own image. And so this is really great for me. And then we tie it back to the Constitution, in which the Constitution does talk about privacy, but not quite in the digital age. Those founding fathers were a little behind the times in 1789. Teresa, next slide, please. So in terms of the need and the venue, the focus is really on the Constitution and the idea of privacy for the students. One of the things I found early on, and when I was in grad school at University of Illinois, Chicago, and then when I came to IUP, is I heard various instances of students doing things on social media, which I would not advise them to do as grown adults, let alone grown adults going out into the workforce soon. So one of the things we talked about is this willful sharing of things. And I think Veronica talked about that with her students, and I talk about it with mine, and Teresa's talked about it in her classes. But it's not just willful sharing, it's also cybersecurity breaches, what's out there and what can be shared beyond that. And then the students stand around and they talk about, the basic guidance to them is Constitution, privacy, cybersecurity. Tie these things together. And no poster session is the same. No apps, apps are always changing. So apps are always changing, and people, how they look at it are always changing. I have students that are education majors that do posters related to FERPA, as well as other things. I have students that are criminology majors that talk about criminal justice statutes and privacy and the Constitution and how that all relates together. And it just makes for a really fun day. This is all during the course of one class session, so an hour and 15 minutes. Teresa, next one, please. So they have to use a full-size poster board, normal poster board size. I always have extras in my office because obviously some students can't afford. I also have extra markers and all that stuff, but they're really told to do this on their own time outside of class. I don't give them any time to do it. They come to the library lobby and then they present to each other and me and other folks. Next one, please. And this is the rubric. They each, in advance, they get a copy of the rubric. This is worth, by the way, 10% of their grade in my class. I make it worth 10% because I want them to do it. I want them to be part of it. And so they get the rubric in advance. Obviously, one of the things, this is the check boxes I use there on the left. I can provide you with a copy of that if you'd like. But basically, I make them put it on the full-size poster board. I make them put their name on the back because some of these posters are used later. I mean, I show examples of them to my class as well. If I'm talking about privacy, I probably shouldn't put your name on the front of the poster board, right? So there's that. And then they talk about the Constitution and how that works. And then they have to cite their sources and all that good stuff. But I can share that with you a little later. Teresa, next slide, please.
Okay, so am I?
You.
Okay, all right. So I think that this is a scholarly conversation winner, this activity, because it situates the library at the center of this scholarly conversation. It brings people in from all of these different places to talk about, they create new knowledge, they're, as Aleea alluded to, they're pulling on their disciplines. So there's some of the students are criminology students, some of the students are even, I mean, there's in the class is a fairly, it's not there's not only political science majors in it. So
it's an American government class, and students from all majors across campus everywhere take this class.
And it's really interesting to have them bring in their different disciplines. Another thing that is, I think, really significant about this experience is that it's mirroring the professional conference, where people will come and their posters are going to be very different than this, because, like, look at this poster. But I mean, but very engaging, and but they are doing something like that they can do, and they do really well, and they get a positive experience. But there actually were winners here, because to make the activity even more engaging, we gave away prizes, and they were fabulous prizes. They were things that we had gotten from the IT people gave us from IT conferences, like the little things you put over your camera so that they can't see you. Anyway, but they were small things, but they liked to get them, and we gave students 3 dots. So they could go around and they could vote on each other's posters. And so we had a People's Choice Award, and then there was a Professor Award and a Library Award. So there were so it makes it a little more interesting to have them, to actually be able to, this one was a very popular one, the Snapchat one.
The library one is my favorite to give away because it comes in a literal plastic cup from the library, and we call it the Library Cup Award.
Yeah, she calls it the Library Cup Award. Anyway, okay, so what is the impact of this event? I think this event is a very impactful. So for one thing, it reaches a wide variety of users. The students in the class, if the students did this in their class, they would, if they say each one of them got up and presented their poster, then the students in the class would get the information that they share. And that's peer education, so that's really important. But they wouldn't deal with the library workers, so the librarians and the library people who go by, they can talk to the students, they can vote on the posters, and their professors from other classes are coming by because everybody goes to get coffee at the library dean comes down and talks to them. The IT professionals, which is particularly interesting conversation to have the IT professionals who are the ones that are trying to head them off from replying to those pet sitting phishing emails come through, and that's really great. Students from other classes with similar curriculums sometimes come because they're given extra credit by other people to come. And anybody passing through the busy lobby will see this, and it creates a buzz in the library. I mean, it's really, it's so fun. Anyway, okay, so what is the library benefit? I just said it creates a buzz in the library, and it's an educational buzz. It's not a bad buzz, it's a good buzz. So it's free educational programming for us. And I think we've all had the experience where we spent hundreds of dollars on some kind of educational programming and had you and your friends show up and somebody who came for the cookies. So we don't want that. We have 100 people here, and then all the people who are impacted by that. Another benefit is that students in the course get a positive experience visiting the library. And so whenever they have a point of need, they're going to come back and they're going, oh, those people in the library are nice. Another thing is it starts this conversation. And so the students can sit and talk with librarians about these privacy issues, and it promotes critical thinking, and it helps us understand our users and understand where they're coming from in a ways that we wouldn't otherwise, and we probably wouldn't have the opportunity to do. Faculty benefits, that's you, Aleea.
Well, for me, this is one of the best hours of my class all year. I have to admit, I love this because I get to see students get excited about a particular topic that they may not have known much about, but that they now can teach themselves and each other as well as visitors to the library. My field is public administration, and we're a very practical, I consider myself a pracademic. My research has to do with the practical, and this is the practical. I want my students to get that same benefit from my courses. The learning transfer between the students and each other, as well as the students and me and the students to the other visitors in the library, is just outstanding. By the way, my peer evaluations that I invite somebody to come watch this from my department, as well as student evaluations every year. This is typically done in the first 4 weeks of class. And every year I get something, at least 2 or 3 comments on my student evals that say, this was the best day. I learned so much. I had no idea. I hope we do more of this in your class, that sort of thing. And then finally, their sources are all cited, right? They're doing research, but it's in an area where it impacts them directly and personally in a way that they may not have thought of before. So for me, faculty benefits, not just for myself in that, and by the way, that's my clipboard. I run around with my clipboard and I grade all 55 roughly posters in about an hour and 15 minutes. I use that rubric and I check mark and I put zeros and minuses and all that good stuff. But I grade the whole time I'm there. So I'm running around like a hyperactive bumblebee in a field of flowers the whole time. So that's what I do. And everyone else gets to really enjoy it. By the time it's done, I've hit my 10,000 steps before the noon hour. So there you go.
You are in a field of flowers. Okay, so the IT professionals, and here you can see 3 of our IT security people who are taking time away from the latest data breach to come over or attempted data breach to come over and talk with the students about these posters. So why do they want to do this? Why are they taking time out of their day? Well, IT professionals, they have this thing, confidentiality, availability and integrity that they want to maintain with their information systems. But their systems are only as strong as the weakest link in the systems. And as Veronica at one point today mentioned, that look, that it doesn't matter how secure your house is if you leave the front door open. And so that's what I mean by the weakest link. That is, if one person gives their password away, then your whole system can get compromised, and your confidentiality, availability, and integrity is out the window. So they have to try to connect with the weakest links to make sure they don't do that. Well, the weakest link on college campuses is often the largest group of clients or ever-changing and hard-to-reach population of students. So this is a really easy, inexpensive way to reach students. Like National Cybersecurity Awareness Month, they started out trying to do workshops. So they'd have these workshops someplace, and they would give away like iPads, and they still couldn't get anybody to come. And then they tried having like tables in this lobby area where they'd give away Swedish fish and pens and things. But that was not very impactful, and it took up a lot of their times. They would only talk to 1 or 2 or 5 people. But here we have 100 people that they can impact, well, then, plus all the people who are passing through. So this is a very impactful event for them. So actually interacting with the IT professionals, the IT professionals can say, well, you know, that's not really right. And they will tell you too. So, but that personal connection is going to be more impactful than any number of emails that they're going to send. But it also helps them gain an understanding of their client population, because they'll come out of there saying, did you hear what that student said? And anyway, okay, so the student learning outcomes. So here's some things that the students talked about. They thought a lot about online tracking and big data. Like one of the students said, Google has a lot more information on me than I thought and can get a lot more. And there were a lot of conversations about these virtual assistants and how the creepy factor with the virtual assistants. Even some of them said, I don't have one, but my roommate has one, and I don't like it being around. Another thing is that they were definitely more increased awareness of their lack of privacy. Most people said that they were that this was eye-opening, and they would try to be more private in what they share online. And they mentioned, one of the students I remember told me that she had, someone had mentioned something, and then she got an ad for something related to that, and she didn't type it, but she just said it. And she said she thought her phone was listening to her. So I mentioned it to one of the IT professionals, and they sent me an article from the New York Times about, they sure do. So if you're okay.
and that's one of the things I talk about in my classes before we do this session, is I come up with some random phrase like giraffe watching. Is anybody going giraffe watching this weekend? And we talk about giraffe watching a great deal, and then all of a sudden they start getting ads for like zoos and drive-through zoos and all kinds of other random things. I'm like, well, see, they're always listening.
Yeah. So anyway, something that they did that they had never done before is, and they admitted that, is to actually, in fact, some of them, that was their main research they did, was to read through the terms and conditions of their apps. And they reported after that they were going to use those privacy settings a little better. And something else that they mentioned a lot is the privacy paradox, which is a phrase that's often used, and you heard them talking about it, is that students noticed that they were recognizing their increased privacy, that they don't have this privacy, but they realized that in order to engage with their social life and even their professional life, because the people are looking for this persona, they had to participate in it. So, and then finally, and most closely related to Lea Perry's class, is that there are public policy recommendations that many students, in fact, there was one big group of them standing around talking about how we need laws and we need regulations. And I mean, and that's golden. Okay, all right. So what's the student opinion of the activity? As Aleea already mentioned, it allowed them to investigate topics. This is what they said. It allowed them to investigate topics that they think are of most interest. It's unique. Fun was a word that frequently came up, but also informative and not too overly stressful. So it's a little bit stressful, but a little bit stressful is actually good for learning. So it opens our eyes to be more cautious about the things we do on, or that we do things on in search. And the topic of cybersecurity is interesting. And this one I love. And they said, who doesn't like to have class being canceled? So Lea Perry, was class canceled that day?
That class never gets canceled.
The class was not canceled.
Sorry, they just, we were not in the normal classroom. We were somewhere else.
Classes are the ones that they don't know they're in one.
Yeah, they didn't even know.
Yeah. So, okay, all right. So where did they get their information? They got their information from a lot of different places. They looked in the Constitution, court cases, legislation, including the Patriot Act, privacy settings, and terms and agreements in social media sites, and these different places. But particularly interesting to me is the way that they fell back upon their disciplines and were able to, I'm sorry, no, thank goodness. There's a car alarm going off near here. What am I gonna do? Anyway, I'm sure that's the Russians. Anyway, so it was the way the students would bring in what they were learning in their other classes related to cybersecurity, which I thought was just really interesting. Okay, all right. So what's the recipe for this privacy session success? One faculty member with related course material, one faculty member open to active learning, one activity description, a rubric, and grading thing. And you can see a book chapter, or we will send that to you if you're interested. One librarian interested in new programming, willing to approach library space maintainers. Some tripods. We actually bought 15 tripods for this thing. And then students with inexpensive poster boards, though some of them did not use poster boards. Some of them used old pieces like of styrofoam that they taped together. And those were some of the creative, wonderful, one of them had like, it was like a book and you opened it up and it was styrofoam that they taped together. Anyway, they're so fun. Lots of glitter and lots of dashes of creativity. Unfortunately, something that you need for this particular way to do this is a library setting where you don't have COVID-19 restrictions. So this is the book that it appears in, and as we said, if you email us, we can send it to you. So tell us now in the chat, how can we do this in this new COVID-19 normal? Because we really want to continue to do this, but how are we going to do it whenever we don't have public spaces where you can have 100 people right next to each other for an hour and 15 minutes? So Veronica, can you do the chat and tell us what people are saying?
I'll take care of it. I think Veronica stepped off for a second.
Oh,
so
okay.
I see Zoom sessions are a suggestion. Online poster sessions, I like that. Invite the campus community can come to those Zoom sessions. Good. PowerPoint slide instead of a poster. Excellent.
Yeah.
Creating websites. Oh, I got to be honest, y'all. I'm loving this. Thank you. What else is out there? Anyone else have an idea? Because truly, I mean, and Teresa knows this because I start bugging her about an October session. Oh, I don't know, in May or something. I start saying, when are we going to do this? I couldn't do it this year, but so.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
So,
thank you for your suggestions. I will take all of those to heart.
okay. All right. So we did some other things too, and these are National Cybersecurity Awareness Month activities. And as I said, we had been long working with the, actually one of them, the student panel was a National Cybersecurity Awareness Month session, but the faculty panels were a little different. But anyway, okay, so here's some pictures of these sessions. Okay, the first one we did was for students, and this was, it was an outreach panel. So we kind of brought together, there's the flyer. One of them took place in the library and another one was in a different building, but the library sponsored them in terms of sponsorship. We didn't pay anything for it. We just helped them to develop it, brought people together. But as you can see, it's they'll provide information on how to protect your privacy in a cyber world. So who were the people that were involved? We had Lea Perry, who brought her privacy and constitution discussions and posters. I came and I shared these tips that I have in my class. I have these 10 easy to do things that they can do, and talked about them, privacy and how the impact of that. We have a professor who's she's from education, and she works with students in elementary education. Well, reputation management is really important for elementary teachers. If you have alcohol, sex, and profanity, it's unlikely that anybody's going to hire you to be so that's really important. And she has a lot she does with that. And then Veronica, who she mentioned, she teaches these forensics classes and whatever. So that's her interest. We also partnered with Student Affairs. They have an office of alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs. And so whenever somebody drunkenly posts something that creates to be this big social media problem for the university, Anne's reputation suffers. So she's very interested in helping students be more aware of this kind of thing. So she was willing to pay for pizza and prizes. And then I have to shout out to Veronica, who gave us some pretty darn good prizes for the second one that she got at accounting conferences. And also, I think you actually, the extra credit that you gave to students for coming, or you actually made it a class period for the second. We got it.
Yeah, so I make my students go. So basically, because I want them to know how important it is. So, and I give them extra credit if it's not during class time, just because, you need to entice students to go. And I always tell them there's food and prizes, which is very enticing as well, but just to give them that extra incentives. And after these sessions, I mean, I've had great feedback from students. They do tell me like, well, I didn't realize all of this and I didn't know that, even though, we might go over it in class, but then in certain aspects of it, they don't get like the depth and breadth when, Anne is there and all the others that are also presenting, which is also great because my colleagues solidify what I say in the classroom because, if I say it, they don't believe me, but if their peers say it, they believe them. So that's great.
Yeah, I think, I think I failed to mention that earlier, but, peer instruction is so powerful. I mean, putting students in the position where they're teaching each other makes them learn the subject better. And then whenever they teach each other, they're more likely to believe their peers than they imagine, than us. So so it really is very powerful. And the second time we did it, I think we had a trivia contest at the end, which was really fun. We had this one guy who was answering all the questions. So anyway, I'm sure he was in your class, Ron. Actually, no, it was for my class because he was in IT. He was a computer science. Anyway, so this was really a good time. So we need to try to do this online too. I mean, because any suggestions for that in the chat of how we can do that online?
We just hear crickets, just like when I ask a question in my class and nobody answers me.
Engrossed. Well, I mean, I think probably some of the ways they suggested from and I've already talked to Anne, who is our alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs person.
We have a great suggestion. Short videos. That's excellent. I love videos, so we can definitely do that.
Oh yeah, Veronica's a video lady. Yeah. So okay.
Oh, I like this one too. Escape room with privacy related questions. Oh, I love that idea.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Thank you. Those are fabulous.
Okay, yes. Well, we're going to have a lot of Zoom rooms, I think, this fall. So, okay, and all right, great. Okay, so finally, and there's a picture of our crew there. The people who came, and this one, there's somebody here, I think that, oh yeah, he has one of his prizes. He's showing you his prize that got there. Anyway, okay. All right, so the final thing that we did was, we have something at IUP called Technology Day, where we have IT people who are demonstrating security I'm sorry, technology, different technologies like Zoom or, you know, D2L or whatever, and streaming Teams. But that's one level of interest. But whenever you invite faculty to come and talk about how they use those things in their classes, that's something that's really engaging for faculty. So we have this wonderful technology day that's been going on, 10 years anyway. So we did a panel at Technology Day for a number of years, and there's a picture of it. Here's Anne, who is the woman from Alcohol, Tobacco, and Other Drugs, and she's talking about things that they did there. So, and this panel was really more curriculum related, curriculum and extracurriculum curricular related is what we were doing. So for the people who would be offering programs and teaching classes, like what kind of things that people could do. Like, for example, we had in political science, we had Aleea showing, there she is with her posters again. We had Veronica, there's Veronica down there looking at talking about reputation management. And I gave out my 10 tips again. IT security people came and talked about, I think they talk about password security and password managers and you know, avoiding phishing and using the VPN and things like that. Simple things that students can use, and they don't have to be IT experts to do, that people can include in their classes. Again, the Professional Studies in Education talked about reputation management. The Student Affairs Office of the Office of Tobacco, she talked about reputation management, alcohol-related postings. And then the Career and Professional Development Center person never actually joined us, but they did give us handouts on reputation management and LinkedIn. And all of the handouts from these sessions can be found in a live guide that you'll see at the end of this session. So in terms of building partners, so at this point, we'd like to open it up to either chat or your actual voice questions. So if you have suggestions how we could build more partnerships, or give us any tips on how we can do these things. If you've been working with privacy literacy on your campus, we'd love to hear what you're doing, or if you'd like to ask any questions that you might have.
So Teresa, we have a question in the chat. So do your instructional designers that might help you learn about other course content where this might be relevant? Oh, okay. So maybe we can just talk to Nancy and Brian and see where they might help us.
Interesting, because we never have talked to Nancy and Brian, and I will do that. I'll see if Nancy.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. Thank you.
I think Nancy would be all over this.
Absolutely, yeah. Excellent. Thank you, Julie, for that. We appreciate it.
Does anyone else have any other questions? Chime on in. Okay.
So,
go ahead.
Okay, sorry. That's usually my role in this group. Sorry about that. So it says the privacy literacy concepts might connect with campus wellness activities being done by student affairs or residential life. I think that's great. We can contact Lee Tang as well from residential life and kind of get all of the lived learning communities involved too.
Yeah, living learning communities. Yes, absolutely. And it might be easier to do that with a Zoom. Then, I mean, I think, you know, actually getting students to come to events is kind of difficult, but publicizing them, and if there's Zoom events, and then you can give them certificates or whatever and track that and send that to and we can advertise it and get the faculty to know that it's available and see if they're interested in giving students extra credit. So that's a great idea. And we can do things I mean, it's kind of nice because you can do it in the residence halls without going to the residence halls, which can be a little.
That's good, because I usually get more attendance on my Friday classes via Zoom than in person. So students don't want to get out of bed on Friday. They might come Monday, Wednesday, but Fridays they never want to come. So I get a lot of great attendance via Zoom that way.
I will say this, the best part about this collaboration, in my humble opinion, is the fact that I have been able to work with folks across campus on issues which, if you look at a government services librarian, somebody that teaches political science, and somebody that teaches accounting, you might think we have some things in common, but this we definitely have in common. I think the friendships that have come out of this as well have been lovely.
Hear, hear.
It's always so much fun, you know, to do things with across disciplines and across campus. And it's always fun to do things in the library.
It's the scholarly conversation.
So we also have important role modeling for our students, also cross-discipline. Absolutely. Thank you, Julie.
Let me just, if I could just show you some, I mean, somebody might be hesitant to adopt this because they're not really sure how they might go about doing it. And there are curriculum models that are available. The Digital Privacy Project is kind of an older one, but it's absolutely, like I said, it was an IMLS grant, and it has workshops that you just can go through those. So it's really easy to have this even as like a professional development activity in your library. And another thing is this digital shred, which is a workshop that the librarians at Penn State Berks do with that's a first year experience class. And they do some really cool things, and those curriculum materials are all there too. And then like I said, all of the material, and at the end of this you'll see the these are the resources that I used in that library guide. There has all the resources from this event, and whenever, I think this is going to be recorded, so we can put that in there, a link to that, so the presentation will be there too. But there's, you know, when I first started to do this like 4 or 5 years ago, there really wasn't a lot of library literature discussing this, but there's been, I mean, a lot more that has come recently, and there's more like this. So let's see, these people that did this privacy literacy instruction practices, they've done a whole bunch of stuff. They did that digital shred literacy workshop toolkit, which is really useful. So I don't know, do we have any time left, or we have 5 minutes left or something?
6 minutes.
6 minutes.
If anybody has any more questions, do we have your contact information? We can get that out to people. They can contact you later, maybe. And please ask away if you have any more questions. Okay.
Teresa, I think if you go to our introductory slide, it has our emails. So maybe if they do have questions later, then they can always email us, and Teresa and Aleea and I are always on email. We're always there. So.
More so than is healthy.
Excellent. Well, great. Well, thank you everyone for attending.
We're going to hire you. Thank you so much.
No problem.
Who has come. We are going to record this, and we'll send out a link later, or just check our YouTube channel. We have another great presentation coming up next. Thank you very much for that. That was a great presentation.
Thank you.
Thanks all. Bye.
Our next one starts at 11. So you have about 5 minutes. Go get some coffee, take a break, and we'll see you back here soon. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
everything.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you.